Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. In this video, we're going to be talking about 5 different items or groups of items that you should be selling in 9.2. Now before we get started, just right off the bat, none of these are going to be legendaries because I want to highlight the possible markets that might be kind of overlooked and kind of not the quote-unquote meta at the moment. So we're not going to be talking about legendaries at all in this video. It will be highlighting 5 different categories. So do not worry if you are a legendary crafter or not. Hopefully all of these items will still be interesting to you. But without further ado, we're going to get right into this first item. I will say if you guys enjoy my videos, feel free to leave a like and possibly subscribe. According to my YouTube analytics, which you've probably heard this a lot, 65% of my audience isn't subscribed, and it'd be really awesome if you do, if you enjoy the content. But here is the first thing on the list. So the first item or groups of items that we're going to be talking about is, of course, gathering enchants. Now, enchants itself is not a very surprising market at all. Definitely in previous videos, I talked about consumables and enchants being necessary for the raids and everything. However, the specific gathering enchants, the Shadowlands gathering, has been doing very, very well. Now, of course, it really did very well the first few days because everybody wanted to gather up the new ores, so they had to buy themselves a new enchant just in case they lost it on their new pieces of gear, etc. And so normally on my server, now of course I am on a medium pop server, but I could sell these gathering enchants in 9.1.5 and above for about 80 gold a piece. And for this first week of the patch, I was selling anywhere between 150 gold to 400 gold. And my crafting cost practically stayed the same because all it cost is some soul dust and some cheap materials. So definitely if you are an enchanter and you might just want to give a little bit more focus on the gathering enchants. Now, of course, as we go on through the patch, less people will probably need the enchants because they've already purchased one for themselves. However, we might see an increase in gatherers whenever flying is unlocked, which is week 4. So definitely, if it's not super profitable at the moment or not super inflated, feel free to check back on week 4 and you might see a difference. But gathering enchants is something to keep your eyes on, and we're going to move on to the next one. So the next one is actually a new item, and it's actually a group of items, and these are the new optional reagents that drop from rares. So specifically, there's a very long list of them, which you can find on Wowhead. Just look up optional reagents 9.2 and you'll have a list of them. But specifically, I want to talk about the Devourer Essence Stone, as well as the Alic Harmonizing Stone. And so the reason why I want to talk about these is that multiple people in my Discord have gotten these from rares. I'll put the names of each rare on the screen since I don't know them off the top of my head, but they just got a lucky drop, from these rares, killing them every single day, and they got these items. Now, both of these are from Droll Crafting, and they are pretty cheap to make. Yes, they might require 5 to 6 of the new materials, but the rest of them is the very cheap gems, you get from prospecting. There's the things that you generally vendor, and then a vendor item, like the wire that you need. And it's very, very cheap to make. And people in my Discord have been selling these for 6,000 plus gold, making, 5,000 plus gold profit per stone. Now, of course, once again, this is going to be kind of a time-gated thing in terms of the most profit possible, because as the time goes on in the patch, more people will gain access to these items, and so on and so forth. That might drive the price down overall. But specifically, these 2 stones have a pretty good use to them, and just for another example, you have the Sustaining Armor Polish and the Corpse Purification, which both have their own use as well, and this is just the Jewel Crafting ones. So definitely be on the lookout for those optional reagent patterns if they drop from rares, you might want to start killing rares on your crafters. And of course, just be mindful that maybe you accidentally picked one up, learned it, and just didn't, bother checking it out. But I highly recommend doing so if you haven't already. But that's going to be number 2 on the list. Just look out for those, and of course, you can find more information on Wowhead if you'd like a full list of these different reagents. Now, the group number 3, which is going to be yet again a group of items, are the items that you need in order to unlock the new frog mount inside of Haven. So if you guys do not know, there is a mount, I believe it is called Patient something, forgot the second word, but it is this frog that is in the kind of pool in the middle of Haven, and it is a 7-day questline in order to complete it. Now, of course, a lot of people did this in the first week, so the first day was just a standard quest, and then the second all the way up to this last day was actually turning in items. And a lot of these items you could actually purchase yourself. So, for example, the ribs, the meat from cooking, they were one of the items for the second day. And on my server, they went from, 3 to 5 gold a piece, all the way up to 90 gold a piece, and they were selling. There was somebody on my server or in my Discord, who was able to reset the market to 40 gold, and they ended up selling 5,000 ribs for a total of, 200,000 gold, and most of that was profit, resetting it from like 5 gold a piece. So specifically, the items I'm talking about are the ribs, shrouded cloth, the thad fish, and then there's also a pie vendor item from Zereth Mortis itself. You don't even have to, buy this off the auction house. It's for a few gold at a vendor, and I was able to make a quick flip by putting it on the auction house that day and, getting some lazy people to buy it. So, or the people who, did not know where the vendor was. So, definitely keep a lookout on these items. Now, of course, a lot of people probably did this questline the first week, but, somebody might have started a few days late, did not really notice that this quest existed, or just kind of ignored it for whatever reason. So, just keep an eye on those markets, and if you ever see them inflated again, it might not be crazy at 90 gold again, but if it goes up to 10 or 15 gold, that could still be a solid flip if you purchase ribs at 3 gold apiece. So, ribs was definitely the most inflated, it seemed. Shrouded cloth went up from like 1 gold to about 1.7 gold, and then the fish was alright, and the vendor items I was able to make a pretty penny on as well. So maybe buy some vendor items, start posting it on the auction house, and hopefully you'll get some sales. So just keep an eye out on those markets. If you see them inflated, it might be that day again for that quest. Moving on, we now have gem clusters. Now, I have talked about gem clusters in a Forgotten Items video. If you guys don't know what that is, I have a series called Forgotten Items, and it's basically kind of like this video in terms that I'm just kind of talking about the markets that aren't very interested or a lot of people shy away from for whatever reasons, and kind of convince you to try them out. So, gem clusters are a big one from this, but specifically the reason I'm talking about it now is that I have been selling out of these a ton. So, people are getting new socketed gear. People will be getting new socketed gear if they haven't already by the raid coming out in Mythic Plus and all of that. So that means people are going to need new gems. Now, we don't have any new gems, so these blue gem clusters are going to still be best in slot, and they're very, very simple to make, especially if you are a legendary seller or somebody who just prospects ore to, resell essence, or for whatever reason, instead of vendoring or shoving all of those gems inside of your bank, feel free to craft them into clusters. It saves you space, and then throw them onto the auction house. Of course, you do have to be mindful. You might not want to post, 500 at a time due to possible fees, but I sell them for 30 to 50 gold a piece, sometimes 25 gold, and, sometimes people buy 10 at a time, and it's really good passive money, especially for the gems that, I kind of get either way. even if they're, just going to be vendored. So highly recommend looking at gem clusters. Of course, it's going to depend on your server, but it's a good market, especially for people who might not have a ton of gold and it's just looking for kind of one of those fast turnaround markets. And then lastly, for this video, we have Goblin Gliders. Now, Goblin Gliders are one of my favorite items, and they have been basically ever since they've been introduced in Draenor. And the reason for that is that they are super useful whenever we don't have flying. So, Goblin Gliders, if you guys don't know, they are the popular glider that everybody basically uses to jump off cliffs and go very far. To unlock treasure chest, there was a lot in Korthia on those kind of floating islands that you had to kind of jump and glide to. So Goblin Gliders were used for that. And then now in Zereth Mortis, we have a ton of weird chests that are on top of things, on top of cliffs. We have those jumping puzzles, stuff like that. And so people have definitely gotten creative and have been using Goblin Gliders to try to get a hold of those chests, of the ore, the herbs, all of that. So definitely, ever since the patch release, I have seen an increase in prices. Generally, I can sell Goblin Gliders for about 15 gold a piece, and they've been in the 25 to 30 range. Now, of course, that's just my server, and the materials are pretty cheap. It just requires true iron ore, which is from the Draenor Garrison, as well as Sumptuous Fur, which you can also get from the Draenor Garrison. So technically, if you do have a garrison set up with a barn, with a mine, you could technically go there every single day, collect that stuff, and craft these for quote-unquote free. Of course, you're spending your time, but you can go ahead and do that and just sell these gliders. Definitely, I sell out of them as soon as I post them, within a few hours, but then I log on the next morning and I'm like, oh wow, I am out of gliders, and then I have to buy more ore if it's available. So definitely one of those things that you don't realize is super good until you start doing it, and then you realize, wow, I'm sold out and I have to restock for the third time this week. So Goblin Gliders are definitely one of those hidden gems. Also, if you are somebody who does not have that unlocked, since it's an older recipe, it is very easy to obtain. It's Draenor engineering, and it's super easy to obtain. You can look up a guide, you can look on Wowhead. It will not take you long at all. So if you're worried about that, since it's old world, a lot of things can be a little bit scary to unlock because you need reputation or anything like that. It's very simple to unlock. But with that being said, that is basically these 5 categories. So yet again, we have enchants, specifically the gathering. We have the optional reagents, gem clusters, the group of the quest items, and then lastly, we have the gliders. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more information, and hopefully you might, see something that catches your eye. Hopefully you can find something that really works on your server. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, feel free to join the Discord down below. That is where you're going to find information about spreadsheet updates, free profile TSM updates, anything regarding my channel. That is where you're going to find it there. But thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, have a good day.